How many landing pages do you manage for your site? Uh, Hopefully, it's more than one. Well, welcome to the Treachery of Data podcast, the companion podcast for the CRO Roundtable, a bite-sized chunk of content summarizing what we discussed at the roundtable last week. All right, so we had an interesting topic around how traffic sources inform your UX auditing process. Um, so first let's take a step back and let's actually talk about, well, what really is a UX audit to begin with?
So UX audit. Before I start, or before I guess many CRO people start working on developing ideas for experiments and stuff like that, should always start by doing an audit of what's already there. So there's loads of different perspectives which we can look
Right.
at an audit, like
Tons
looking
of different research avenues, right?
tons of
And
different
and
research.
that's not what we're getting into. Like, we don't want to
Yeah.
go down the rabbit hole of here's, you know, 20 different research components that you can engage in to generate, test ideas.
Yeah.
What we want to focus on is like specifically the component of UX auditing.
Yeah. So one of those many different avenues and perspectives you can look at is the UX. And even with the UX, there's many different perspectives that you could look at. Like for instance, looking at it from mobile phone, like making sure
Yeah.
everything's got the correct click areas and stuff like that,
Right.
or touch areas. So this is more specific to uh, I guess messaging. Is that right?
Yeah. The components of a UX audit are looking at like the UI, so the interface, like the functional components of the page, and then also the marketing, the brand, the messaging components as well.
Yep.
Um, my personal bias, like, I definitely lean towards the UI side because, I have a stronger background as an interface designer, and I tend to fall a little short on like messaging and brand auditing. So this is definitely an area of interest for me, and like I for sure need to skill up here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have like a particular background in messaging, even though I've done a lot of, working with value propositions and kind of much more of a marketing uh, angle as well. I've worked in the marketing department before. So, but yeah, there's like with a UX audit, you generally uh, you'd want to look at, review what you have with a specific lens in mind. So whether it's, if traffic is coming from a particular source, then, you know, how relevant is that copy to them?
So, as an example, um, someone that's coming in to your website for the very first time, like they did a generalized Google search for a type of product that they're looking for. And, your product was one of the first results, and they clicked on that out of interest. They have no prior brand awareness or anything like that. And so, they click on the ad, they hit your landing page. Well, the content of that landing page needs to be high level, relevant to their experience. They don't know about the brand. They're still curious. They are probably much more likely to bounce because they don't have any particular investment, right? So you need to capture them quickly. And maybe like you can key into something about like the search term that they were using to direct to a particular landing page. Like, did they search specifically for the type of product, or were they searching for like an answer to a problem that they had? Like, were they asking a question to the search engine or something like that instead? And even at that high level, those users have different needs. And they maybe shouldn't be directed to the exact same landing page. There's those like the high level heuristic points of like relevance, motivation, and value. Like you're at the relevance level right there.
Mhm.
Like the content needs to speak to them. Like if you're bombarding them right away, if you're selling like a $2,000 product, it's like a really expensive, like purpose built thing that like somebody like the purchase cycles 30 days or 60 days or something like that, where someone's doing a lot of research before they ultimately decide which solution they want to purchase. You know, bombarding them right away with like, buy now, 20% off, hurry, hurry, hurry. That's probably not going to be helpful. That's probably going to turn them off because they want to carefully make a decision and not be pressured.
I mean,
And
there's many tools they can use to kind of analyze the place that users are at in their journey. For example, one which is like the term that you coined previously, just before we started recording, is degrees of awareness. So a user can come into the site problem unaware, solution unaware, or they could be problem aware, solution unaware, or they can be problem aware and solution aware. So, for instance, if they got a specific,
what do each of those mean?
I hate to bring up Apple all the time, but Apple and the Apple iPhone, when it was launched. Uh, so users were not aware that they had a problem that, with the interface and with the current set of phones that they were using and the interface that they were using their phones. They're perfectly happy enough using the physical keyboards and stuff like that. That was all rage back then. So at that point, they were problem unaware that that there's a better way to interface with the phone, and and solution unaware. Well, they certainly didn't know that, hey, pinch and zoom is the big thing. So is the best way to zoom in and out of something and scroll and all that kind of, the multi-touch and stuff like that. So at that stage, people were problem unaware, solution unaware. The problem aware becomes when, say, hey, do you realize like how much time you're spending on trying to navigate your phone? Isn't it a pain to zoom in and kind of, like get into a specific area of content on your page, and then as a user be going, huh, yeah, actually that is a problem. So now you're problem aware, but I still don't know what the solution is.
Problem unaware is typically like there's a better way to do things than the way that you're currently doing something, but you don't know about it.
Yeah, it could include that, but there's a lot of other things that it could include. So yes, that's essentially correct. Like there is there could be another better solution. No, there could be another way of doing things that
Yeah.
you
I'll
just
give
didn't
you
know about.
I'll give you a recent practical example
Mhm.
from me. Um, I travel quite a bit for leisure vacation. Um, and so I have to wait in line at the airport all the time to go through security checks and things like that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you got to get to the airport 2 hours early because you got to wait in line and stuff. And like, it's like, this sucks, but the you got to do what you got to like. You have to go through security. You can't not like you can't skip it or
Mm.
whatever, right? So this is just a thing that I have to live with anytime I want to travel, right? Well, I found out that there's these, at least in the US, there's these two things. There's TSA pre-check and there's a system called Clear, which TSA pre-check is like a government initiative where you can basically like go through a registration process and it says like, oh, you're a known traveler, so you don't like so you can go in a shorter line instead. Like, like you've been pre-cleared, so you get to go in this shorter line instead. And then Clear is a similar kind of thing along those lines, except run by a private company, and they use either like your thumbprint or like a retina scan to validate your identity. and that also gets you in a shorter line as well. So if you use both together, you get through the security line real quick because you get to skip a bunch of security checkpoints and save yourself a whole bunch of time. I wasn't aware that those existed until fairly recently. Now, I jumped on them right as soon as I found out. I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. Like, I'm gonna use these right away." I was I had I was unaware that I had that problem.
Yeah, unaware that you had that problem and unaware, and hence unaware the solution existed.
Right.
So yeah, so then once you became aware of the problem, you may not have been aware of what the solution is. Like for instance, I'm spending a lot of time in these queues, blah blah blah, but I don't know what the solution is. So the final stage, and this is the one that's probably closest to for instance, in the examples that you were saying with the getting jumping the queue and all that kind of those processes, is you have a problem, and then a solution exists, and these solutions exist, and then at that stage, each one of those stages um, you're in a user is in a very different mindset. So they if you were to uh, sort of say, "Hey, why don't you go for the hard sell when they're problem unaware, solution unaware?" The user would probably be thinking, "Hey, hang on, I don't have this problem. What do you mean?" So that I think the first thing that would generally happen, and this is what that kind of the degrees of awareness of that, what that stage by stage process is taking the user through those stages, or understanding what stage they are at, and then messaging them according to that stage. And the other thing that you mentioned, which is really key, is relevance, which is absolutely key, um, because you know,
Each stage has a different need. Like, relevance is high in the stage. Like, you need to make the customer aware of either the problem or the solution,
yeah,
right?
and
And then once they're aware, then you get into motivation of, like, encourage them to make like, they're aware of your offer and your solution now.
mm,
Now you have to motivate them to convert, right?
yeah,
There's all of these different stages that are layered together, and your UX informs how you want to direct those users and like successfully convert them.
yeah,
If your ads or your all of your campaigns or whatever just drop everybody on the homepage, that's probably a terrible idea because the homepage has so many different things going on. Like, you're not going to be able to hone in on relevance and motivation and, all of these other different components. Or like, well, say you already have, if you're like a SaaS tool or something on like your homepage and like your existing customers hit your homepage, they probably just want to log in. They don't want to be marketed to. They're already a customer. So, like that above the fold space that's so high super value, super important. You can't cram everything into just that little above the
mhm,
fold space, right? Because you're going to create issues with like focus and attention and stuff. And it's like, well, if you're going to sacrifice one or the other, okay, well, if the relevance chunk gets pushed down the page, uh, it's going to get lost, right? So you
yeah.
need you need to set up landing pages for your campaigns, and the landing pages need to be different depending on the stage of the user's awareness.
Yeah, because there's this the key thing called from a user's perspective, what the key thing that they're thinking when they come to the page from a selfish perspective is what's in it for me. So that's a,
Mm,
a
mhm.
really useful and important um, sort of lens through which to review your pages. So as well as the degree of awareness, what's in it for me from a user's perspective, and then find the areas of relevance. And for that, like going to the traffic sources, um, depending on where they've come from very different. They could have come from a numerous number of different places. It come from a search, from a Google search, from a Facebook ad, from a landing page, maybe from an email campaign, maybe just being recommended to by somebody. And all of that is context before the user hits your specific page. There's a context model that users have in their head before, in terms of like what they've seen before and their journey to getting there. There's also another thing called a marketing scent, which is basically like, think of it like a hunter hunting its prey, and it's kind of
It's such a
something.
mean analogy, but
Yeah. But it's like, but yeah, this is from the user's perspective. Like, yeah, I'm looking for something. I'm a hunter.
oh, I thought you
Not,
meant from the
not the
marketer's
marketing's
perspective, like the
market.
customer is the prey. Ah, ha,
Yeah.
ha.
Well, you can look at it that way. But yeah, I was, but more from that perspective. So users like, hey, I'm looking for this, and then they hone in, and it's important to keep that they call the scent alive from the time that they've done the search. They might have done like a Google search, then through that Google search landed on your on a specific landing page. You want to keep that scent alive to say that, hey, this is relevant. You're still on the right track of what you are searching for. What's in it for me quotient is pretty high on this page. So yeah, all of those kind of things are really like, looking at optimizing specific landing pages, just understanding what the user.
Landing pages or where you're directing the if you, even if you're not having necessarily a dedicated landing page, like if you're directing users to a product page
Yeah,
or something like that, like starting to like venture into personalization efforts of
yeah,
like shaping on like showing or hiding different chunks of on-page content depending on what you know about the user.
yeah,
There's also something important there of like what I just said and what you know about the user too. Like you're talking about all of those different stages of the journey. You need to have telemetry in place to be able to identify that of like know like, oh, this person is coming in from the Google ad campaign or this person is coming in from a Facebook ad or it was a referral link or maybe they even, like, saw something in, like, a physical piece of media, like a catalog or something like that, and so you have to, like in the catalog, you give them, like, a unique URL or something that they can hit, so you can identify, like, where that user's coming in from, and then, you also need to utilize a CRM to see, okay, how many times is that person touched and things, like, you're starting to venture into, like, the realm of marketing and stuff, but that's still entirely relevant to CRO because
mm,
you need to be empowered with that information to help identify like, okay, what stage is that user on in their journey so you can optimize the on-page experience for that part of the journey.
yeah. And even if it's like a product details page, not necessarily. And uh, this is the gotcha that a lot of people fall into, is assuming a perfect sort of user flow. Like, they land on the
Yeah.
home page, they conduct a search, they get a product listing page, they find a product listing thing that they're interested in, they click on that product listing, they get to the product details page. But in reality, it's the journey is much messier. Users
There's
have
no
an.
one singular funnel
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
website. It's more like a funnel tree
yeah,
where there's
exactly.
lots of different brand or a funnel orchard, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's lots of different ones leading into the ground.
I use that Google Analytics funnel view, which is kind of like, all the different sources coming in. So when you're working on a product details page, you might have users who have come from the product listing, or you might have users who come from a Google search or from a Facebook ad directly in, and
Yeah.
their needs may be different.
Yeah, I have a really good example of this. This is a very simple test that I've run before across several different e-com sites. Um, on the product page, Like, a lot of times you have, alternate product recommendations, like, "You may also like," or something like, it's a bounce or abandonment mitigation, recommendation technique, and usually that sits lower in the page because you're assuming, like, the users scroll down, maybe the further they get down the page, maybe the less interested or less sure they are about the product, or inversely, maybe they're more invested. But usually have that somewhere on the page. It's not high up. A test that I tried is if I know the user is coming in from search directly to that product page, like the product page is the landing page. The "You may also likes" or product alternatives is pushed right up to the very top of the page, right under the navigation, and it's a bounce mitigation technique because they may be coming in and the product that they're looking at is sort of what they were looking for, but it's not exactly what they were looking for. If it's not exactly what they want, they're still in that searching mindset, so they're probably they're more likely to hit the back button and go back to their search results and keep digging through that. Well, you don't want them to do that. You want them to stay on your site. So show them the other products and it's like, "Here's, 5 or 6 other things that that might be relevant to you." It's like, "Oh, here's the thing that I was actually looking for." Boom, now I'm on the site. Now you've gotten that conversion.
Yeah, yeah. Just because they've landed on the product details page, it doesn't mean they've found the optimal product,
Mhm.
and kind of giving them a landscape idea, landscape view of, bird's eye view of what other products there are for a product listing. Yeah, that's a great tip. Um, yeah. So I guess the other thing to mention is the various psychological principles of a buying, of a somebody making a purchase, which is a very common way of CRO people or experimentation people thinking about a buyer's journey. You have motivation. You have, are the users motivated enough to make a purchase, or to take on a service, or to sign up to a lead generation form? Is the trust there? Has the site done enough to build up the trust with the user? Uh, is there anything else vying for their attention on the page? Like, is there other distractions and stuff happening?
Yeah,
And
talking about, the heuristic hierarchy.
the heuristic hierarchy of the page, yeah. What are the because and also the ability is, do the users have the ability to make a purchase? One of the things like that, I'm really glad you mentioned the heuristic.
I'll I'll link it in the notes, but Spiro has a really great blueprint on, like, the heuristic, pyramid hierarchy.
Yeah, because that is a really powerful way of which to just like organize all of the information on your pages. What do the users see first? What do they see next? What do they see next? And not just that, but what's being communicated as they go from top to bottom, and what's the correct order? Do you build up trust first? Do you kind of like show them that this is really relevant? Or do you want to show them that, hey, this is a really good price urgency messaging or whatever? So what's the right order? What's important um, for your specific users?
Yes, there you go. There's no one
There's
specific
no
right
one,
answer there. It's not,
no,
like, motivation should be first, and
yeah,
then trust, and then etcetera. It it's gonna be highly different based on the user and based on their stage of the journey.
yeah. And that could be, when you come into making, creating your hypotheses, you could, maybe, and this is where the user reviews, you use the text mining really comes into play, because you could review all the text documents that people have sent through the user reviews, user surveys, customer service stuff, and kind of figure out, okay, what is the key problem here? Is it a motivational problem? Do we think? Is it a trust issue? Do we think? what's the biggest sort of issue, and maybe like consider rejigging your narrative flow of your page to highlight those elements. And if you don't get it right, then just tweak and go.
There there's also something there of, like, test meta information, like, something that I do, and this is also really easy, like, take your heuristics and make that a required data point for your test ingestion form.
Yeah.
Like, my Airtable test ingestion form, one of the questions is, "What are the behavioral heuristics that this test is trying to affect?" And then you c and Um, I allow for multiple choice because a test can have like, you can be trying to affect multiple things at once. There's not
Yeah.
necessarily one single answer. But then that also lets you, like, look at, like, okay, how many tests have we run that try to affect friction or clarity or motivation, etcetera? And then you can run, a meta-analysis on, like, out of all the tests that we've ran, 5% were focused on motivation. So that's an underserved area.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, 50% of the ones that we did were for motivation, but what was the success record for motivation? Like,
Yeah.
oh, out of, like, the 50% of the tests that were focused on motivation, only one of them actually had a, desirable outcome. So, maybe we shouldn't be focusing on motivation.
Yeah. And with those, uh, and with those kind of like big leaders like motivation, trust, and stuff, it's important to note that and this is something that I use, which is like the subcategories of those. So basically, motivation is a big area, of which value proposition, relevance, and urgency are key components of motivation. And then likewise with something like trust, you've got like authoritative messaging and social proof. And, so there's you could, you could really subcategorize those into and be much more specific, because a problem might be in the motivation, and the problem within the motivation might be a value proposition not being clear. So yeah, and or the pricing not being too high or whatever. So so yeah, those meta information is really really important to add into
Mhm.
experiments, so you can go and analyze your experiments on a meta level. Um,
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking a listen to us today. If you've got any questions or feedback, you can always talk to me and Iqbal face to face at the CRO Roundtable every Friday. You can find the invite at conversionworld.co. Open invitation. Everybody's available, allowed to join. You don't need a special secret invite or anything. If you're shy or you don't like speaking, you can always connect with us on LinkedIn instead. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.